What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to take a look at 3 shows that Disney Plus could do that I think would be perfect for Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, when I was thinking this up, realistically, you could make 100 shows. I think I guess when you're as passionate about the franchises as you guys are or as I am, of course we could try to make it work pretty much with anything. But in this video, I'm going to try to do the ones that I think would make sense in a larger, in a larger scope where people would actually watch the show. I think you could do as like an honorable mention, let's say, Karina and Henry. I know they're not everybody's favorite characters. I really like them personally, especially Karina. I think a show of just them doing adventures and them learning about just things, right? Henry doing his kind of stuff, Karina using her knowledge, all of that. I think that would be an amazing, amazing show. Do I think it'll ever happen? No, but I do think it makes sense. So an example like that. Again, that doesn't exactly work for the mainstream. It would work for a smaller audience. But again, I want to talk about some ones that maybe will work for a mainstream. So if you guys do like this stuff, and again, I'm trying to do different topics for you guys, make sure you show your support. Make sure you guys are liking this video, subscribing, all that stuff. Specifically to help this video, of course, watching it as long as you can, leaving the like, leaving a comment, all that stuff helps YouTube, right? Obviously helps YouTube push this video further. So make sure you guys are doing that. And I truly do appreciate all of the support. You can find all my other social media stuff in the description. So Henry and Karina aside, let's do the most obvious one first, a Jack Sparrow prequel. Now, they already kind of went down that path with Pirates 5, right? Showing the little glimpse at what Jack was like back then. And I don't think, Disney Plus, I wasn't even around at the time. I don't think that it was something on their mind that they were eager, they were really pushing for, like a prequel for Jack Sparrow. But I do think, obviously, it makes sense. He is the most recognizable character. He is the most popular character. If you did a prequel, I guess you wouldn't need to have Johnny Depp, and then therefore you would maybe be clear. The question would become, number one, still, how is the relationship between Johnny and Disney? But number two, how do they feel about Jack? So if Johnny Depp isn't attached, but you do a Jack prequel, are they comfortable still associating themselves with that character, because we all know who portrayed him? And also, the more risky option is, how would that play over with us? That's like, oh, and by the way, this is I think the biggest thing, because if they did that, it would be to us, it would say, oh, so you have such a big problem with Johnny Depp that you won't finish his story. The most beloved character in Pirates, one of the most well-liked characters in cinema history. You won't finish his story. You won't rehire him, but you will milk his character. You will get yourself more money and do a prequel series on him. So, it looks bad. It really looks bad. So, it's the most obvious in some ways, and in other ways, it's actually the most dangerous of them. But obviously, on the positive side, obviously everything, say in a fantasy world, everything was cleared up with Johnny. They did a Pirates 6. They ended the story. It was beautiful. We all cried. And then they did a prequel. There is so many things you could do. You could follow along with the books if you wanted to. They are sometimes regarded as canon, or at least they were, several years ago. Not really as much anymore. You could go down that route. You could even play off of what we know from the movies. So you could introduce the Beckett stuff. You could introduce the Davy Jones stuff. If you wanted to do Angelica, if you wanted to do, I guess, more with Salazar, but they kind of kept that very isolated in that one film. Like, we saw how they met each other. We saw them in the present, and we saw how Jack ended him. All that stuff. So I don't really know if you could do that, but obviously the possibilities are endless for a Jack Sparrow prequel. You could do so much. You could really also expand the world, because then you could even introduce characters that maybe he met back then that you could bring into the present time if you did more movies, if you did other spin-off stuff, all of that, right? So I do think that would be a really cool thing. The second one is a Barbossa show. Now, again, this could be a prequel, or it could be, it's tough. There was no in-between, really, between 1 and 2, okay? He was basically just brought back to life and put in his position. 2 and 3, there is no in-between. It literally picks up right after it. 3 and 4, yeah, there's okay amount, but again, we get the general gist of it, that he had the pearl and Blackbeard attacked him and he cut off his leg, and that's pretty much, and he got into a position of power, and that's pretty much it. So again, it doesn't really work for the movies, because actually the movies stay pretty tight with each other. I guess between 4 and 5 is kind of the the biggest, and really, again, that was just him kind of raising an empire, right? Getting very, very rich, getting very, very powerful. I don't know how much you could really do of that. And he was also getting lazy, and that was definitely a major thing with 5, is that he was letting his guard down. So to have him have adventures in between 4 and 5 don't really make sense. So again, it makes the most sense to maybe you introduce him in a Jack thing, and then you do his own thing. You know what I mean? And so, again, with him, you obviously have the relationship with Jack, which I can't believe I forgot that. I mean, Jack and Barbossa, big deal, especially when they were younger. So they could, meet each other in the Jack thing. They could meet each other in the Barbossa thing. I think this is a risky one on its own as well, because Barbossa, while I think is the best character, and I think we've said this before, I believe Barbossa is the best character in Pirates. He has the best story. He has the best arc. I mean, Jack is amazing in different. I mean, I think Jack in Pirates 3 is like absolutely incredible. It's my favorite version of him. That's one of my favorite characters in anything ever. But Barbossa is just so good every single time. So it's hard really to, in my opinion, argue that Jack is actually better than Barbossa. But again, he's not as big as Jack. So if you did a Barbossa prequel, and what you're gonna call it, you're gonna do like the Ahsoka Tano show, right? It's just Ahsoka. Would you do that for Barbossa, right? Would that actually do anything? I don't know, but I do think it would maybe be worth a try. I think he's a phenomenal character, and he definitely had a different path to the movies than Jack did. And so again, I think that would. And by the way, Barbossa is insanely... Now, Jack's knowledgeable, too. Actually, pretty knowledgeable, and he kind of hides it. But Barbossa is, like, very openly... Like, he knows about everything. So does Gibbs. Both of those are kind of the audience's way of learning things in these movies, right? For the most part. Obviously, there's a couple other characters, but they're the biggest ones. So maybe you show how Barbossa got that smart. How he learned all of these things that he just kind of pulls out of his inventory. It's like, oh, I know what this thing is, or I know how this works, or I know how this, supernatural occurrence happens, right? Obviously, he had to have learned that somewhere, so it'd be maybe cool to show something like that. The final thing, the one that is the most different, but I think would be the most outrageously cool, also would never happen in the history of mankind, a Davy Jones show. Now, again, you'd have to do it before Pirates 2. You could even, you could have him do stuff in Pirates 1, but you could have him, when he was young. I guess when he was younger, he's been kind of in that state for a while. But now the thing with him is this, again, we know the beginning, we know some of the middle, and we know the end. Okay, we know how he got into that state because of Tia Dama and because of their relationship. We know how it ended. We know he did stuff in between. Again, though, a lot of that stuff is sketchy. Really, the only thing we know very clearly, very well pictured, is the ending. So you could do stuff where he was actually a pirate, right? When he was human, when he was with Tia Dama. You could do that. You could do when he was transformed to Davy Jones, and maybe like what are the first few years of him being Davy Jones? Like, what is that like? Again, we know from the movies that he wasn't always cruel, right? That was obviously one of the quotes, but that he was like actually a man. He did have feelings and a heart and all that good stuff. And eventually he kind of became corrupted and he became evil over time. I think a show would be really, really cool to kind of show that descent. Again, it would be weird. It would be something that if they did it, you'd probably be taking... I'm not saying like you would do like a Joker, like Joker 2018. I don't know if you would do something like that, but I think it would be the most different from Pirates than any other show you could do. And that probably does happen just from focusing on the villain. But what I will say, while I do think it's impossible, while I do think it's not going to happen, obviously there is I would say a small percent chance, probably very, very small, but it could work. Considering, again, the possibilities are insane. People do like following villains. Davy Jones, in my opinion, is and I've always said this, and this is a very probably controversial opinion in the movie industry, but I love him as a villain. I think he's the best villain I've ever seen in a movie. I just understand him more, and I understand where he's coming from, and I understand that he's not actually a bad guy more than any other character that I've ever seen, truly. And so I'm really a big fan of the portrayal of him and how they did all that stuff. And I do think, by the way, for Pirates fans, and that's another thing too, yes, you have to make these shows probably watchable to a lot of people. You want to get brand new people in. But to Pirates fans, is there any villain that's even remotely close to Davy Jones? No. In fact, although 5 obviously had quite a bit of problems, there's a reason why they decided to bring Davy Jones back again after keeping him out of fully of 4 and fully of 5. There's a reason why they chose to bring him back at the end, is because he is the big bad, and he is by like 5,000 miles the best one. Barbossa was good in 1, but obviously, you know, that dynamic has shifted, but Davy Jones is the best, okay? So I think it would be an amazing show. The one I would want more than anything else, to be quite honest with you. This is the one I would want, is something centered around Davy Jones. Or if you did a Jack prequel or something like that, have Davy Jones be in it, at least just for, like, as a cameo. Like, that would be really cool. So look, Disney Plus gives us the possibilities of that any of these things could potentially happen one day. I don't know why they're bringing back 50,000 franchises and filming all this stuff, doing Lizzie McGuire, doing High School Musical. They're doing all this. Of course, they're doing Star Wars. Of course, they're doing Marvel and all that stuff. Why you've left Pirates when it would be very easy. There'd be people that would watch it. It's a chance to gain extra viewership to a franchise that maybe they would say is dying. Well, put it on Disney Plus, throw some of these ideas against the wall, see if you could do a 6-episode thing. I guarantee you it'll be enormous, and it'll probably revitalize the people's excitement for Pirates. Why they haven't done it, I have no idea. However, one final thing I'll say, remember, rumor is they have 10 Pirates of the Caribbean projects in the works. Some of those have got to be, I would think, TV shows. And so hopefully maybe some of this stuff eventually gets announced at some point, okay? So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. If you guys want to subscribe to my second channel, it's called Podcast Now Plus. The link for that is in the description. Thank you all so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate it. I hope to see you all on the next video.